Another client turning you down, Madison? My cousin Oliver's smirk carried across the table like a challenge. You'd be surprised, I said evenly, how much human behavior shapes business outcomes. I didn't add the part about how their own financial futures were in my hands. It was a sunny Sunday in September 2024, and we were gathered for my parents' annual brunch at their lakefront home in Lake Tahoe. I was 32, the odd one out, in a family of corporate titans. My father began his usual round of achievements. Oliver just closed a $900 million real estate portfolio with his firm. And Danielle's law practice is overseeing the Baymont Crescent merger, my mother added, largest in California this year. I hid my smile behind my mimosa. They had no idea I was the anonymous behavioral strategy consultant both companies had hired to assess the psychological viability of that exact merger, and my recommendation was about to tank it. What about you, Madison? Aunt Clara's voice dripped with performative concern. Any progress with that little consulting hobby of yours? It's going well, I said lightly. Oliver laughed. 2 clients needing pep talks? Meanwhile, I'm steering actual deals. My phone buzzed quietly. A text from my executive assistant. White House briefing confirmed for tomorrow. They want your input on the new economic advisory panel. Danielle leaned forward. You know, my firm's always looking for junior associates. Even with your unique background, we could find you an entry-level spot. I thought of the confidential report I'd prepared for her managing partner just last month, a 6-figure contract to profile their potential merger targets. My analysis had predicted 3 market shifts they'd since acted on, earning them millions. I'm happy with my current work, I replied. What work? Oliver scoffed. Listening to people's problems all day? That's just therapy. You'd be amazed what people reveal when they talk, I said, my voice calm. Their fears, their strategies, their vulnerabilities. My father cut in, beaming. Oliver's team is finalizing that Pacifica acquisition next week, real money. I kept my face neutral, remembering my meeting that morning with Pacifica's CEO. He'd asked me for an evaluation of the acquisition offer. My written recommendation, reject it immediately, would be on his desk in 12 hours. Oliver's team had overlooked fatal cultural misalignments that would sink the deal within a year. Hey, Madison, my mother sighed. We just want you to reach your potential. I raised my glass, smiling faintly. You have no idea, I thought. All that education, Madison, and what do you have to show for it? Oliver leaned back in his chair, his voice loud enough for the entire dining room at my parents' Lake Tahoe home to hear. I thought of my penthouse office in San Francisco's financial district, with sweeping views of the Bay Bridge, the waiting list of Fortune 500 CEOs, the government contracts, the private Gulfstream I actually owned, unlike Oliver's company-leased jet. I do all right, I said lightly. All right isn't enough in this family, he shot back. Look at my division's performance. $3 billion in deals this quarter alone? And how's the Pacifica acquisition going? I asked, feigning casual curiosity. He frowned. Proceeding. Why? Oh, just curious about behavior patterns in high-stakes negotiations. Danielle rolled her eyes. Here we go again with the psychology nonsense. This is why you'll never understand real business. My phone buzzed under the table. Urgent. Preston Myers Group wants to triple your fee for expedited merger evaluation. You know your problem, Madison. Oliver pointed his fork at me. You're too passive. You have to be aggressive. Take what you want. I thought about how aggressively I was about to sink his Pacifica deal. Sometimes, I replied. The quiet ones have the most power. Power? He laughed. You sit in an office listening to people talk? That's not power. Tell me, Oliver, I said with a faint smile, how many of your deals require psychological compatibility assessments? He waved a dismissive hand. Some consultant nonsense clients insist on. Waste of time and money. And who provides those assessments? I pressed. Some top-secret firm the clients won't even name, probably overcharging them for basic. He stopped mid-sentence as realization flickered across his face. My phone buzzed again. Goldman Sachs CEO requests urgent meeting Pacifica acquisition. Excuse me, I said, standing. More anxiety clients? Daniel smirked. Something like that. I stepped into my parents' study, closing the door behind me. Tomorrow, Oliver would learn that the Pacifica CEO had rejected his billion-dollar offer, citing my assessment as the deciding factor. The next morning, I sat in my real office, a sunlit penthouse suite high above San Francisco, where CEOs, senators, and global leaders came to speak freely, knowing my one-way glass let in light but kept the world out. Dr. Madison, my AI system, Lucid, announced in its calm, synthesized voice. Pacifica Capital arriving in 5 minutes. Oliver Grant's team requested to join. I smiled, adjusting the cuffs of my tailored navy blazer. At brunch yesterday, my mother had called it "where" with a smirk. Keep Oliver's team in the secondary conference room, I told Lucid. Let's see how long it takes them to realize where they are. My phone still held last night's string of desperate messages. Oliver, need urgent consult on Pacifica deal, client insisting on specific psychological approval. Danielle, Baymont Crescent merger stalled. Your assessment? Dad, since when does Pacifica need a psychologist's sign-off? I silenced the notifications as Pacifica's CEO, Adrian Cortez, walked in. His shoulders were tight, fingers tapping an anxious rhythm on his briefcase. Dr. Madison, he began, we have a situation. The Pacifica acquisition, I said. I assume you've read my preliminary report. He sank into one of my deliberately arranged chairs, low, comfortable, designed to subtly shift the balance of power. It's devastating, he admitted. Your analysis on cultural incompatibility, the predicted leadership turnover. Lucid, I instructed, display compatibility matrices. The glass wall lit up with swirling patterns of behavioral data, 5 years of doctoral research distilled into actionable predictions. While my family had mocked my waste of time degree, those algorithms had quietly shaped billion-dollar deals. Your brother's team, Adrian continued, missed everything you caught. Pacifica thrives on collaborative autonomy. It's completely incompatible with their top-down approach. A ping drew my gaze to the security feed. Oliver and his associates had just noticed my name etched on the frosted glass. Confusion turned to pale-faced realization. Send him in, I told Lucid. Oliver walked in first, his usual self-assurance dulled. Madison. You're the consultant. Dr. Madison, Adrian corrected, his tone edged with respect. She's the top corporate psychological strategist in the country. I let that hang for a moment. You think I just listen to people's problems, Oliver. In reality, I analyze complex human behavior in high-stakes environments, predict merger outcomes, and evaluate leadership fit. I gestured to the glowing data wall. And right now, I'm explaining why your acquisition strategy is structurally flawed. Oliver shook his head. The Pacifica deal is solid. The numbers, I said evenly, are meaningless if the people behind them can't work together. And in this case, my recommendation stands. Reject the deal. The silence was louder than any argument. And trust me, the fallout from this meeting was just the beginning. Subscribe now so you'll be there for the next twist in Oliver's story. Numbers don't account for human nature, I cut Oliver off. Your aggressive acquisition style directly conflicts with Pacifica's collaborative culture. If you forced the merger, implementation would fail within 6 months. Adrian Cortez, Pacifica's CEO, nodded. Dr. Madison's predictions have been accurate within 3% for the past 5 years. Her assessment is final. Oliver sank into a chair, his confidence unraveling. How long have you been doing this? I met his eyes. Remember when you mocked my first corporate client 5 years ago? Called it therapy for weak executives? I smiled. That client was the Federal Reserve chair. Now I have a 3-month waiting list and a 7-figure consultation fee. 7 figures? He repeated, stunned. Per assessment, I clarified, more for expedited services. I turned back to Adrian. Speaking of which, let's review the alternative strategy I've prepared. My phone buzzed. Danielle was calling, again, about the Baymont Crescent merger. The one she didn't know I was about to completely restructure. Lucid, I said, current client value assessment. The AI's clear voice filled the room. Confirmed clients represent 67% of Fortune 500 market capitalization. Waiting list includes 12 heads of state, 8 central bank governors, and the top 5 global investment banks. Oliver's associates shifted uncomfortably, recognizing deals they had worked on. European acquisitions that had quietly required my approval. Now, I continued, about Pacifica. I have an alternative path that preserves both corporate cultures while meeting your growth goals. Whatever you recommend, Adrian agreed without hesitation. Your track record speaks for itself. Oliver stayed silent as I restructured his billion-dollar deal into something entirely different. His commission would vanish, but worse, the illusion of his control was dissolving. One more thing, I added. The Baymont Crescent merger your sister's firm is handling? It needs a full psychological reassessment. Adrian nodded. The current structure's unsustainable. I'll call Danielle's managing partner today. Oliver finally found his voice. All those deals? All those times clients insisted on special consultant approval? Were me, I confirmed. Turns out psychology is very valuable in real business. An hour later, my office was far more crowded. Danielle arrived with her managing partner in tow, both looking like they'd swallowed nails. Their faces were pale as it sank in. Every approval they'd been chasing for the Baymont Crescent merger had to come through me. My father had come too, probably hoping to perform some last-minute damage control in what was fast becoming a total shift in family power. Your latest assessment, Dr. Madison, Baymont's CEO requested. Lucid, I said. The AI lit up the wall with fresh matrices. Baymont Crescent merger, 78% probability of cultural collapse within the first year. Recommendation, restructure or terminate. Danielle clutched her designer briefcase like a lifeline. This is impossible. We've spent months on this merger and missed every psychological red flag, I said calmly. Competitive internal cultures, conflicting leadership styles, incompatible decision-making processes. But the financials, her managing partner began, mean nothing if the people can't work together. I tapped my screen, and Lucid pulled up the Harrison Webb merger from last year. A deal with perfect numbers that imploded spectacularly. $8 billion in shareholder value destroyed, I said, because no one listened to the useless psychologist. My father cleared his throat. Madison, surely we can discuss this as a family. I turned to face him. Like you discussed my career as a family? All those dinners, mocking my degree, my work, my choices? How's that working out for you now? Oliver still hadn't spoken since Pacifica's CEO left. He was staring at the client list filling one wall, a Fortune 500. Who's who of companies that don't move without my approval. Lucid, I said. Current success rate of ventures I've endorsed? 97.8% success rate over 5 years. Ventures rejected or restructured show an 89% failure rate when pursued against recommendation. Danielle's managing partner pulled out his phone. I need to call the Baymont board immediately. Dr. Madison, can we retain you for a full assessment? My next available slot is in 3 months, I replied, unless you'd like to discuss expedited services. Whatever it costs, he said without hesitation. Speaking of costs, Oliver finally spoke. How much do you actually make? Lucid, display annual revenue. The number flashed across the glass wall. Danielle choked on her sparkling water. It was more than her firm earned in 5 years. That's just the corporate work, I added. Government contracts are considerably more. Government contracts? My father asked quietly. Why do you think I miss so many family brunches? I said. I'm usually dining with senators, central bank governors, and world leaders. I looked at Danielle. Remember last month when you mocked me for canceling Sunday dinner? I was consulting the Fed chair on the psychological impacts of interest rate policy. The room fell silent as years of assumptions collapsed in on themselves. Dr. Madison, Lucid announced in its crisp, modulated tone, the White House is holding on line 1 regarding tomorrow's economic advisory assessment. My family stared as I picked up the call, discussing global market psychology with the president's chief of staff like it was an afternoon catch-up with an old colleague. When I hung up, Danielle was the first to speak. "Why didn't you ever tell us? Would you have believed me?" I asked. Besides, watching you all assume I was failing while I built this empire was quite the psychological study. Oliver cleared his throat. "About the Pacifica deal is dead," I confirmed. "But I've prepared an alternative strategy. It might save your reputation, if not your commission." "And the Baymont Crescent merger?" Danielle's managing partner asked. "Needs a complete restructure. My team will send the preliminary psychological requirements. Danielle can handle the legal framework. Assuming she's willing to listen to her familiar sister." My father straightened, slipping into his business voice. "Perhaps we should discuss integrating your expertise into the family's business interests." "No need," I said, smiling faintly. "I already control most of them. Those psychological assessments your companies require? They all come through my firm. I've been directing this family's business success for years. You just didn't know it." I walked to the floor-to-ceiling windows, gazing at the city where I'd built my silent empire. It's fascinating. A perfect case study in assumption bias and psychological blindness. You were all so convinced of what success looked like, you missed it standing right in front of you. "Medicine," my father said quietly. "I was wrong." "Lucid," I said, "show them the family investment analysis." The glass wall lit up with a detailed map of deals I had quietly guided, acquisitions I had reshaped, and disasters I had averted. Lines connected my recommendations to the family's record profits over the past decade. "Shall we discuss," I asked, "how this changes our monthly family dinners?" That night, back in my private study, I reviewed potential client files while my phone lit up with new messages. "Clara, darling, about that business advice. Cousin Michael, any chance you can move me up the consulting wait list? Mother, we should have listened." We archived them all. Then I opened my calendar and changed next month's family dinner from my parents' home to a private dining room at the city's most exclusive restaurant. The one I owned. Sometimes success isn't about proving people wrong in the moment. It's about letting them slowly discover just how right you've been all along. And sometimes the most powerful person in the room isn't the one bragging about quarterly numbers. It's the quiet one studying everyone else's behavior, knowing their fortunes rise and fall on her understanding of the human mind. As for me, I still drive my modest sedan and live simply. But now, when my family sees me across the table, they don't just see their underachieving sister with the useless degree. They see the woman who controls the fate of their business empires with a single assessment. Turns out, in the real world, understanding people is the most valuable business skill of all. I've spent years listening to people talk. CEOs, world leaders, investors, and in every conversation, one truth has stood out. People underestimate what they don't understand. My family thought my degree was useless. They thought my quiet nature meant I lacked ambition. They didn't see the hours I spent analyzing behavior, the years I invested in building something they couldn't even imagine. If you've ever been dismissed, mocked, or overlooked, you know exactly how that feels. And if you believe in what I've built, if you believe that understanding people is just as powerful as numbers, then I'd love your support. Subscribe, leave your thoughts, and tell me, have you ever proved someone wrong without even trying? I read your comments, and they mean more than you think. Here's my advice. Never feel pressure to broadcast your progress. There's immense strength in building quietly. Let results speak when the time is right. Pay attention to human behavior. It will tell you everything about who to trust, who to work with, and who to walk away from. And remember, your power doesn't come from proving them wrong in the moment. It comes from living in a way that makes their judgment irrelevant.